Story 1. Am I the asshole for telling my husband? This has nothing to do with you. I am a 27-year-old woman, and my husband is 27 years old. We just had an argument, if you could even call it that. So my brother just got a job, and that's great. Except, he was immediately thrown into single fatherhood right after. He has a daughter, my niece, who is about 6 months old, and he has no one to babysit her while he works, because the mother is suddenly not in the picture. He called me and asked if I could watch the baby during the week while he works, only for a few weeks, since he knows I am a stay-at-home mom myself. I would have said yes, but I can't. I am pregnant, and I have 2 young kids of my own. One of them does school from home, and I have to do it with her. We are still getting the hang of things because we just moved. By the time I would be prepared for that, he wouldn't need the help anymore. He understood that, and then asked if I knew anyone personally who could help, because he was out of people to ask and wanted to try and avoid daycares, since he didn't trust them. He said he would pay and cover everything, but he urgently needed someone, and I said I'd ask around. I don't really have friends, and I don't know many people in general because I'm very introverted. But my sister-in-law, who is 25, lives with us, and she was just telling me how she needed a job and needed money. So I proposed the idea to her. She immediately agreed. So I put her and my brother in a group chat to talk, and I also brought my brother over to the house so they could have a face-to-face conversation about it. Now, they're not strangers. They've met before, so it wasn't awkward. They talked about the baby, what was needed, and everything like that. My brother didn't have a long-term plan mapped out yet since everything was so abrupt, but my sister-in-law was understanding and said she'd be okay with whatever, and that was that. I'm not sure of the other details because they texted on their own, and it was really up to the 2 of them. But ultimately, it came down to my brother bringing my sister-in-law to his house early in the morning, then dropping her off back at home and seeing how things go, which she agreed to. Everything seemed fine until the day of. My husband came into our room and blindsided me with all these complaints on her behalf. He said my sister-in-law had not eaten since the morning, that she wasn't comfortable, and she was tired, and that she didn't even need to be there because other people were home and could have watched the baby, and that they only gave her $100, and so on. I was confused, because I spoke to my sister-in-law while she was there to check on her, and she said everything was fine. So I told him she didn't say any of those things to me, and I asked her, and she said she wasn't complaining to him. I said to him bluntly, "So she is not complaining, you are complaining for her." And he said, "Yes." I told him I was confused, because he was throwing it all at me as if it's my responsibility, and that my sister-in-law and my brother are 2 adults who made their own deal that was up to her, and she agreed to it. Nobody was forcing her. If she was uncomfortable or anything, all she had to do was say it. He continued to repeat the complaints and said, "Do I have to get involved?" I told him the deal doesn't involve him, or me for that matter, and I don't understand why he's the only one upset here when it has nothing to do with him. They are adults. He told me he can't even have a conversation with me and left the room. I'm genuinely confused. Am I missing something here? My sister-in-law is also confused as to why he even got worked up to begin with. Am I the asshole? Top comments. Friendly Ask 6533. This is weird as fuck to me. Why is he so concerned about his sister? She needed a job, you got her one. If she worked for a regular employer, would he call her boss and complain for her? What's he expect his pregnant wife to do? I don't know, man, shit's weird to me. Do I need to get involved? No, you need to cut the cord, weirdo. The original poster replied, "Yeah, I mean, he threw it at me like trying to make it seem like I don't care about my sister-in-law or like something was my fault that I needed to correct. But he was the only one upset. My sister-in-law says she never complains, so I just don't get why I'm the bad guy in this argument. Friendly Ask 6533. I wish I could give you better advice besides telling him to mind his own beeswax. But that's all it is. If it's going to be an issue, the only people who are going to suffer is your brother, who can't work, and your sister who needs money. I don't know what he wants you to do, girl, besides having him pay her an exorbitant amount of money to watch a 6-month-old, or should he also pay for her to eat while he pays for her rides to and from, which again a normal employer would not. They're family but not family at the same time. So if he wants her to get paid more, then maybe he should find her a ride, and whatever your brother spends weekly on Uber, he can instead give to her. But it seems like your husband will be unhappy either way unless your sister-in-law quits, which seems like that's what he wants. Unless the sister-in-law is lying and really complained, it's like, what the heck, dude? The original poster replied. I flat out asked him, what is it that you want? What do you want to happen? And he said, it's not about what I want. I said, but you're the only one complaining. And he got mad, trying to make it seem like I'm being inconsiderate. I'm so confused. And I wasn't even rude about it. Friendly Ask 6533. Girl, take you and your babies and your sister-in-law and get y'all some ice cream and go see a movie. Don't invite him. Sounds like he's just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. You don't need that stress. You just tried to help her, and if he can't see that, then that's on him. If he takes it up with your brother, then let him. Warn your brother that this may become an issue, so he can start looking for other child care options. Your husband sounds like he just has some beef with your brother. Maybe it's underlying. But he's pushing this for no reason, and that's super sketchy to me. The original poster replied. And even then, that would confuse me. We moved to our new house about a week ago, and my brother is the one who helped my husband and I move. They loaded and moved all the furniture and everything together, just the two of them, zero beef. He even gave my brother an extra few bucks to thank him for helping out. I just don't get it. Friendly Ask 6533. Girl, me either. Maybe sister-in-law did complain, and now he's trying to cover for her by saying she didn't complain, because if she didn't, why does he still want it fixed? It's out of your hands. I'd sit down with both my sister-in-law and husband right in front of each other and say, what's the issue? She doesn't have one, so why do you? Then I'd proceed to give him the cold shoulder and warn my brother. I don't have time for that nonsense, and you don't either. Update 2. Hello once again. I know a lot of you are wanting to know what's happened. With all the support from you guys, I feel I do owe you that. Things have happened, and I needed time to be alone, gather myself, and process. My husband kept on with the attitude, the side comments under his breath, and just being weird. I gave no reactions and ignored it, 'cause I got better things to give my energy to, like my pregnancy and my 2 children. Anyway, I was cleaning, and my husband decided to confront me and ask me why I'm acting this way. I asked him what he meant, and he said I'm being a way towards him, and I simply told him I absolutely will not coddle him for an attitude that doesn't make sense for him to have. He got upset, rambling something about how as his wife it should matter to me that he's upset, and I said I have done nothing to him, and I gave him chances to explain what was wrong and he didn't, so it's not my responsibility to fix whatever it is. He said this was all my fault, and I asked him what is my fault. I've done nothing but take care of our kids and our home as well as him. I told him that he made no sense, that nobody did anything to him, not me, not my brother, not my sister-in-law, no one, and that I wasn't going to deal with his attitude at all, and that he could find somewhere else to stay if he wasn't gonna cut it out. He sat down and said, "That's what I'm talking about," saying that my lack of giving a shit and my no-nonsense attitude is upsetting to him. I asked him why would I be wanting to put up with bullshit especially while pregnant, and how would that bother him? He started all this drama over something that had nothing to do with him. And then it came. He took a deep breath and broke down with confession after confession. He admitted he had an affair, admitted that he had installed a camera in our home without telling me in hopes I'd do something stupid so he could use it as defense, and that he'd figured out the woman he cheated with was my brother, which is why he freaked about my sister-in-law working for him. He admitted he started drama to create an argument on purpose to give him a reason to feel justified, and my calm reactions for everything made that impossible for him. It bothered him that I never did anything wrong, because he had done something wrong and couldn't shift blame. I could barely react. I kind of just looked at him. My stomach was hurting. I just couldn't wrap my brain around any of it. He told me he was sorry, that he's a piece of shit, and he doesn't know why he did it, that he loves me, tearing himself down, and I just told him to stop talking. I calmly said to remove whatever camera he installed, and to find somewhere else to stay. He cried and begged and I shut it down. He asked if I was going to tell my sister-in-law. I was worried about me telling people, or what other people are gonna think of you instead of worrying about the fucking damage you just done to our family. He left, but wouldn't stop calling me, trying to talk. Suddenly, he wants to have a conversation. How funny. I put my phone on silent and went to play with my kids, trying to be normal to shield them from it. I didn't want them to see me upset. I was broken up on the inside, had a scare. I kept having sharp pain in my stomach, and then I started to bleed. I was fucking terrified. I thought I'd lost the baby. My family helped me out. I got to the hospital. Baby is okay. I guess it was just the stress being too much. After everything settled, I got home, put my kids to bed, and cried it out. We've been together since we were like 15. I've never cheated on him, ever. We're approaching 30. Like, what type of shit is that? I've never had a trust issue with him before. I'm not a phone snooper. I just don't do things like that. And I didn't have a reason to. He's never behaved like this before. Maybe he has cheated before, and I just don't know about it. I don't even care to know. One time is enough for me. I want a divorce. I will be fair about it. I will not turn our children against him. I won't drag it. But I am done. Top comments. Deleted user. You should absolutely tell your sister-in-law. She's been filmed without her permission for God knows how long while living with you guys. She absolutely deserves to know this. Get your ducks in a row. Start separating finances. Get your important paperwork together. Consult a lawyer. You know what to do. There's a lot to prepare, and you need to get started now before the baby comes. Also, make sure someone is around to help after the baby comes, because you cannot allow yourself to depend on the man that cheated on you and tried to make you the bad guy. Superculture 9114. Right. Sister-in-law is living with him. It can't be legal to secretly film her and the original poster, can it? I would check for more cameras. He may have just started trickle-truthing, and or might be preparing for a dirty divorce. Construction Known 9678. It depends on where they live, 1 or 2 party consent state, and also where he put the cameras. If they're in somewhere like a living room, it's more likely to be legal and frowned upon. Thank you guys so much for watching until here. Let me know in the comments what you think about this story. Now, let's move on to the second story. Am I the asshole for showing my coworker what just being honest can really be like? I don't know how else to put this because it's a weird situation. This is also a throwaway account because I don't want this on my main. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and I started working at my job about 6 months ago. Almost immediately, I realized it was a horrible work environment. The men there act like they're still in a fraternity house or something. There is one coworker in particular who acts like he's the leader. I'll call him Jake. He's around 30 years old. He says he's just honest and talks about free speech or how he's just saying the first thing that comes to his mind. In reality, he's extremely disrespectful and, in my opinion, just a bad person. I started looking for a new job about 3 months ago, but I haven't had any luck yet, so I'm still here. Like I said, he's cruel and mean to everyone, especially women, and also to a couple of guys who he says aren't alpha enough. For more context, I have ADHD and some other issues, and I struggled a lot as a teenager and in my early 20s. I had to learn how to be kind to other people and to myself. I still sometimes get impulses to say mean things that pop into my head, but I worked really hard in therapy to stop those thoughts and redirect myself. Anyway, I eventually decided to give him the same treatment he gives everyone else. This all started about 3 weeks ago, after he told a pregnant coworker that he couldn't understand how her husband hadn't cheated on her yet because she's a cow now. Not long after that, he came over to talk to me, and I told him he was basically a rude person and that he didn't have enough chest. Then I added, "Like, are you balding? Or is your forehead always that inhumanly big?" And so it continued. Just yesterday, we were talking with a few coworkers about all the food I cooked for New Year's, because I tend to go overboard, and they were impressed with my dinner. He came over, started saying nonsense, and throwing insults again. So I said, "See, this is exactly why your dad left you." And then I continued with my conversation. After that, he went to Human Resources. I now have an appointment with them on Thursday. However, my coworkers told me they would support me, and they decided to file complaints against Jake and start documenting his behavior. Apparently, they already had done this before, but Human Resources just gave him a slap on the wrist. Now they are suddenly taking this more seriously and want to talk to me. I'm not particularly scared about the appointment, but I do wonder if I went a little too far. I don't usually lower myself to a bully's level, but I honestly didn't see any other way when Human Resources never did anything about the previous complaints. I don't really want to apologize to him, but I will if I crossed a line. Like I said, I work hard in therapy to be as decent of a human being as I can be. Maybe this wasn't the best way to handle all of this. So, am I the asshole? Update. Well, I had my meeting with Human Resources, and it went relatively okay. First of all, I went on detective mode and found out one of the Human Resources guys, Dylan, was related to Jake. Their moms are cousins, so they don't have the same last name or anything. But I found Jake's mom's Facebook and then a picture with Jake's mom, Dylan, and his mom. I screenshotted it, and I talked to my supervisor, and he decided to come with me to the meeting. In the meeting there was Dylan, his boss, Jake, my supervisor, and me. Dylan tried to lead the meeting and suggested immediate termination, but my supervisor told him, "We will have our meeting with the other guy because I deserved a neutral meeting," and showed both of them the picture. Dylan face dropped, but he didn't say anything else after that and just left the room. The other Human Resources guy talked to me and my supervisor, and I gave him my story and gave him like 12 notes signed by my coworkers where they talked about their experiences with Jake. The Human Resources guy called a couple of them, including my pregnant coworker, in his office too. After dismissing me, on Friday I had another meeting, but it was only me and the Human Resources guy. I talked about how uncomfortable I felt, and how everyone tried to do the right thing by reporting him, but they never did anything. He said he understood, and sadly Dylan was not impartial in his actions by covering for Jake, but that it was dealt with. He said I wasn't going to get written up or anything, and that I'm in the clear, but he asked me to not repeat this and told me if I wasn't planning on doing it again, and just to go to him if something else happens. Yesterday I got to the office and everything was normal, but at noon my supervisor came to find me and my pregnant coworker and told us that Jake and Dylan were let go. Dylan might have some legal troubles with the company, but he couldn't discuss that and asked us to not say anything about it to anyone else, and that people would realize about Jake anyway. I also have a second interview in another company next week. I'm hopeful but also nervous because I had interviews before, but it didn't go anywhere at the end. And that's all. It was more dramatic than I expected. I thought they'd fire me and keep Jake or something, but I feel vindicated, but also sad. Finding out Dylan was covering for Jake because of their family relationship helped me tremendously. Thank you for the advice. It was really useful. Comment by Helena Flowers. I remember your first post and am glad to see this update. I'm guessing that Dylan's employment in the Human Resources Department is how Jake has managed to get away with this stuff up until this point, since clearly no one knew about the connection until you pointed it out. That syncs up with what you said in your first post about Jake only getting a slap on the wrist before. My additional guess regarding Dylan is that the legal troubles could very well have something to do with proof that he's covered up for Jake in the past, including perhaps some instances that could have opened the company up to a lawsuit for either something Jake said or wrongful termination of an employee who reported it. Good for you for doing a little digging and finding what you did, then bringing it with you as proof and leverage. Glad Dylan and Jake had the day they deserved. Comment by Tired Foster Mama. It's also possible they didn't disclose their relationship, and that on top of everything else is putting Dylan especially in hot water. Comment by Never Only a Dream. I'm positive they didn't disclose their relationship. Different last names, so unless there was crossover somehow, no one would have known if the original poster didn't go digging. Which is insanely stupid if you're going to keep covering for a family member who's a huge liability, but I'm sure they both thought they were too clever to get caught. It's either that or someone knew and is covering their own asses by firing both of them, because that never should have happened in the first place. Comment by Snuffle Bull. Sounds like the company is trying to avoid potential lawsuits by keeping the relationship secret from other employees that have had issues. If the original poster leaves, they should definitely let their former co-workers know about the situation. Comment by Feisty_Bag_5284. Wrongful hiring, ensuring he got it over others if he had any influence. Let me know in the comments what you think, especially about how the company handled this situation. Now, let's move on to story 3. My parents are furious because I'm not allowing them to see my daughter after they spanked her. Am I the asshole? I created this account just to talk about this because it seems all my family, except my wife, is on their side. For context, I live abroad, and this is only the second time my family has met my daughter. My wife is 20 years old, and I am 20 as well. We flew down for the holidays, along with an extended vacation, so our daughter, who is 3 years old, could get to see my home country, Brazil, and have a fun, different experience. We spent New Year's at my parents' house with my extended family. Everything seemed to be going well until the third day, when my wife and I left the house to run some errands and left my daughter alone with my parents. My daughter is a very smart girl. She loves talking, she's sweet, but opinionated, and we like to encourage that. We want her to know that her voice and thoughts matter, and that we are there to listen. My parents, however, seemed to disagree. While we were out, my mom called me, telling me that my daughter was being disrespectful. I asked her what she was doing, and she told me that my daughter was arguing about the cartoon they had picked for her to watch and wanted to watch something else they didn't know. I understand that we don't always have to give kids what they want, but I don't see the harm in that, especially because I don't exactly trust whatever they choose for her due to certain ideological differences we have. So, I sent her a link to a YouTube series my daughter likes to watch and asked her to put that on instead, and to tell my dad and mom we would be back soon to talk to her. Next, my mom told me she had Already taken care of it. I was confused as to what that meant, and she followed up to say that she had spanked my daughter to teach her not to argue. Needless to say, I was furious. I hung up, told my wife, and we immediately dropped everything and drove back. We do not do spanking. We have never, and never will. As someone who was spanked a lot for the most unnecessary and stupid reasons, I understand it does not work and only harms the child. And yes, I had mentioned this to my parents. We had a pretty ugly argument when we arrived, but I kept my position clear. They did not have the right to do that, and I wouldn't be taking it lightly. My parents are very strict in their ways, and they refuse to apologize or even acknowledge that what they did was wrong, if not for the spanking itself, then for doing it without my permission. Long story short, we packed the same day and left. I called the hotel for the next city we were visiting and booked a room earlier. It was about a week before we were planning to leave. I made it very clear to my parents that I don't want to hear any more excuses. I sent them some articles on parenting and child abuse, and told them I wouldn't be talking to them or allowing them to talk to or see my daughter again until they read those articles and contacted me to apologize and acknowledge that what they did was horrible and wrong. Fast forward to now, it's been over 2 weeks, and all I've had from them are enraged complaints about how they know what they were doing, because they did it to me, and I turned out okay, so it must work. Complaints about how I'm being ridiculous and unfair because they were only trying to help, and they don't get to see my daughter often since I live abroad. I've received calls from my sister, who is a lot like them, defending them. From my sister's husband, from his father, from 2 of my uncles, my father's brothers, even from some of my cousins. To put it shortly, what everyone is saying is that I should forgive them and forget about it, because they had good intentions and they don't get to see my daughter often, so I'm being unfair. We had plans to spend a few more days with my parents in early February before our flight home, but I canceled it. I still don't think I'm wrong, but I can partly see their reasoning behind them. They don't get to see her often. Point, though I'm still very much not inclined to yield. Am I the asshole? Update. This post got a lot more attention than I was expecting. I showed it to my wife, and we decided to block everyone who has been calling or texting us about this situation. We're going to enjoy the rest of our vacation in peace. Once we're back home, I'm going to call my parents and explain to them one last time why what they did is unacceptable. I will not be allowing them to be alone with my daughter ever again, and unless I can see for sure that they've learned and changed, they will not be seeing her again at all. I'll keep them muted and contact them only if something urgent happens in the family. I've also seen some comments debating spanking kids, and I believe this is a discussion we as humans shouldn't even be having anymore. Spanking, or any kind of physical punishment, is abuse, and there's never any excuse to resort to violence. If a child is too young to reason with, they won't understand why you're hitting them. If they are old enough to reason with, then reason with them. Top comments. Briskagun. Your child, your rules. And by the way, they haven't seen this child since she was born, and their idea of bonding with a kid they've never really met before is to hit her? That sounds like a dumb way to develop a relationship with a toddler. The original poster replied, Unfortunately, they don't know much about developing healthy relationships. Or they believe they have authority over her, which I'm trying to make clear they don't. Rusty0123. Honestly, arguing about authority won't get you anywhere. As a parent who never spanked, but who was spanked often growing up, I can tell you what worked for me. When my parents argued with me about the benefits of spanking, I simply told them to bend over. If they truly believed that spanking was a good way to silence opposition, then bend over so I could spank them. After the sputters and outrage, I let them know in no uncertain terms that if they spanked my child, I would spank them. It was brutal, but effective. Cherry_treat. That analogy is blunt, but it gets the point across fast. Sometimes shock is the only language people stuck in harmful beliefs actually hear. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Let me know in the comments what you think about these stories. And I'll see you in the next video.